Alright guys, Scripted here with another video, and we're talking about George Lucas did an exclusive interview on the 2nd of July, so I'm a little late to the party on this one. But he says some interesting things that I want to discuss. Some things that I kind of don't agree with entirely. We'll see here, but let's check this thing out. Oh wow, I didn't realize how huge his museum is. 300,000 square feet, 35 galleries. A collection that now exceeds 100,000 paintings, illustrations, photographs, and artifacts from cinema history. It has taken years to arrive at this point. You know, and I always say to people, like, the fact that this guy was so underappreciated in Hollywood blows my mind. Like, he changed the game. He changed the game. No one else is building museums. You guys, Industrial Light and Magic, THX, the special effects, like, he completely changed movies. You know, it wasn't just Star Wars. You go back and you watch even the original Jurassic Park, it completely holds up. In fact, the CGI is better than a lot of movies now. That's an incredible accomplishment. And the fact that he's underappreciated, but having a museum like this just proves how stupid people are. Like, who else is doing this? You know? Just so you know, if you hear like a really minor... I left the window open. The chickens are squawking because probably they laid eggs. so you know. Or one of them kicked the other one out of the nest and he's mad. Or she's mad. After all Lucas's success, and that of his heroes, relies on an almost ruthless faith in their own judgment. I'm a stubborn man, he told the Cannes audience. I don't like people telling me how to make movies. The line, delivered as an anecdote, is also an insight into his methods. When Lucas encounters institutional resistance, his response is to invent his way out of it. Faced with studio pressure over Star Wars, he insisted on retaining the merchandising rights to his characters, a decision that reshaped modern filmmaking. That alone just completely changed the game, too, because then he had the money to do what he wanted, right? Like, he could start other companies and, you know, like I said, Skywalker Sound, all that stuff. Like, that was such a pivotal decision he made. I mean, he still would have made bank, don't get me wrong, but man, that just completely changed the game. Unable to achieve the visual effects he imagined within existing films, he founded Industrial Light and Magic. Later, constrained by the limits of analog editing, he pioneered its digital equivalent. I didn't want to run equipment companies, he says. I just wanted the equipment. That's what I'm saying. Like, how does this guy not have, like multiple Oscars? Like, how does he not have a Lifetime Achievement Award? I don't understand. Like, the Academy needs to give him a Lifetime Achievement Award. That's ridiculous. He's never even really won an Oscar. I mean, they did give him some Lifetime Award, but it wasn't an Oscar. Like, how butthurt do you have to be? Like, we're out here now putting, you know, diversity into, like, historical movies and historical things because people want to get Oscars. And this guy literally changed the game. Changed the game. Like, we all know that to some extent, a lot of the decisions Nolan made in The Odyssey, for example, he made because you can't win an Oscar without making those decisions. Despite the fact that they're not accurate to the time period that he put it in and the place he put it in. But they won Oscars. But the things that are done in The Odyssey, the effects, the digital effects, even the practical effects, so much of that visual stuff comes out of the legacy of George Lucas, but he gets nothing for it. He's in his 80s. Like, he could pass away without ever getting acknowledged. They're just ridiculous. It's nauseating. It makes me mad, dude. Like, it straight up makes me super mad. Like, this guy literally changed movies. And again, these guys wouldn't be making the type of movies they're making if it wasn't for him. So he needs to be acknowledged. Every one of these directors and producers and executives should be praising, should be trying to force them to give him his Oscar. He should have already gotten some, but they should be forcing it. They should be calling them and saying, "What are you idiots doing? This guy's in his 80s." It just shows you how, like, petty, They all are. Like, they were all mad because he put credits at the end and didn't put any at the beginning, and that made them mad. And then a ton of movies after that do that now. Like, it's just petty. And he said, I don't like focus groups. The audience doesn't know what they want to see. You make a movie by finding someone that knows how to make movies and is passionate about it. I think in that case he's right in the sense that, like, if it's a totally new concept, that's undeniable. I think that's 1,000% accurate. I do think, though, that when you're dealing with something that's like an IP situation where you've got longevity and you've got multiple projects that tie in together, there does have to be a level of audience consideration, or at least, I mean, there doesn't have to, but I mean, if you decide to go down the road where you're going to change sort of major things within the continuity, within the lore of something that's extending over a long period of time in many projects, then you're kind of going against the audience if you don't do that. And we see that with Disney Star Wars, right? They broke so many rules and they just didn't care, and the audience reacted accordingly. And so there is truth to what he's saying, especially initially. And in fact, right now, people are desperate for something else. We're seeing this with everything now. Like, that Mona movie just bombed, like mega bombed. People are sick of the remakes now. And I thought this was going to happen earlier. I thought this was going to happen like a year or two ago, at least, even before that. But I think 2026 is the watershed moment now, I think, for the constant remakes, constant sequels, and apparently they're making more remakes coming up, I've heard. But, like, they've been doing this now for a really long time. Like, we're talking since the late 90s, but really from 2000 to now, it's just so many remakes. Oh, we're going to do it in live action now, and it's the same movie, and we're going to do more sequels. Like, I remember there was a time when they made like 15 Land Before Time movies, but the vast majority of them were straight to video, right? So it was like for little kids. So that's one thing, but when you're putting theatrical releases, and they're always the same things, people are tired of it. So I think that's the key right now. I think we do need to go and make movies, find people that are passionate about it, and have new ideas. We've seen that this summer. There's a few movies that were very original that did very, very well. But again, I do think you need to make sure, if you're working on something that has the longevity, has the multiple projects, that you still remain true to the original material. Because if you don't, again, the audience, I know they don't know what they want to see maybe the first time, but after a while they do know what they want to see. I had a group of friends I went to school with, Scorsese, Coppola, and Spielberg. I did not know that they all went to school together. We were all students at the same time, and we all know each other really well. I know what their prejudices are. When I show them a movie and they make comments, I know where they're coming from. That kind of feedback he believes is useful. Other feedback is not. I don't like focus groups. The audience doesn't know what they want to see. Okay, so that's where that comes from. If they don't like a character, that's interesting. And as a filmmaker, I want to find out why. But when the studios hear that, they take the wrong message. They let the audience actually make the movie. Of course, now they go crazy with that. Now it's all about what the fans think. That isn't how you make the movie. You make a movie by finding someone who knows how to make a movie that has storytelling. Okay, so this is the more sort of broader quote. And this is where, again, I don't agree with him at all. I don't think the studios do what the audience wants. I'm not seeing that at all. And I mean, I think looking at what Disney Star Wars did, what were the big complaints? So they came out with The Force Awakens. What did the fans complain about the most about The Force Awakens? Rey was a Mary Sue, right? That right off the jump, Mary Sue, no training, beating Kylo, doing all this stuff. This makes no sense. But it's not like that was pulled back. If anything, they went further into that. she could do no wrong and got more and more powerful for reasons we can't explain. And then they tried to shoehorn in this dyad idea. So no, they didn't do what the fans wanted at all. And I think there is a balance there. Like I said, as you get further in your IP, yeah, you know, do what you want as a filmmaker, but you also need to consider the audience. JJ was too scared. He made a rehash thinking that's what the audience wanted, except it was a rehash where she's a Mary Sue, so we didn't want that. Then Johnson came in and said, well, I'm going to completely ignore these. So JJ got what the audience wanted wrong. Ruin Johnson didn't care what the audience wanted at all. And then the third one, episode 9, was it was a disaster where JJ was trying to fix what, you know, he had been wronged previously, and by then it was over. So none of them had the balance I think you needed for Star Wars at all. And I agree with him, that's not how you make a movie, the first movie, but you do have to consider fans, though. You can't just say, no, screw the fans. You can't. You can't do that. And that's what they've been doing in a lot of different IPs. And they're doing it now even with the remakes, with some of their casting choices and story choices and how they're interpreting things. They don't care what, like, if this is what if this is what they think the fans want. I don't know where their heads are. They're in their rear end, I guess. I don't know. So I agree with them, but not totally. Like, it's a little bit. And he says if they don't like a character that's interesting as a filmmaker, would want to find out why. Well, we told Disney why we didn't like Rey, and they didn't care, and they didn't listen, and they doubled down and tripled down and quadrupled down. Like, that was Kathleen Kennedy. Like, I don't understand how fans have anything to do with that. The critics and the fans who were 10 years old when they saw the first one and 13 when they saw the second one complained that they didn't want to see a children's film. Lucas says, briefly adopting a high-pitched whine, oh, that's terrible, Jar Jar Binks is terrible. So he's talking about the prequels? 10 years old when they saw the first one and 13 when they saw the second one, complained that they didn't want to see a children's film. Oh, that's terrible. Jar Jar Binks is terrible. Well, here's the problem. When he did Empire, he went further into the dark. Then he did Jedi, and people were kind of surprised, right, with Ewoks and stuff like that. People were like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, you went this direction, and now you're going this direction. So that kind of bugged people a bit. But you could still look at Jedi, and say, well, that's a movie for 12-year-old boys. You could still say that, which is his initial sort of thing. But Jar Jar's for 6-year-olds. My 10-year-old boy no longer finds Jar Jar funny. He found him kind of humorous the first time he saw it. He was probably like 5. But he's 10 and he doesn't even think it's funny, let alone my 12-year-old. So Jar Jar Binks didn't fit with like if you're going to say the Ewoks were a little too kiddie, well, holy smokes, George, you went like full-blown kiddie. Now, does that mean that the prequels are horrible because of Jar Jar? He's in basically one movie? No, but that's a fair criticism. Jar Jar doesn't, like, just imagine for a second, okay? Because Empire is what put Star Wars on the map in terms of the longevity. Because if Empire wasn't a success, it's over. So, and you went darker. Just imagine a scenario where a character like Jar Jar Binks is in The Empire Strikes Back, which is most people's favorite, right? Probably 50%. I'm like the oldest millennial, and most guys my age and older, Empire's the best one. Most guys. There's some people that like the original more too, of course, a lot of people, but the majority, it's Empire. It just didn't resonate having Jar Jar, and it just didn't make a whole lot of sense. And you know, I get going for the next generation, but you still could have went with the next generation of, say, 12 to 13-year-old boys, which, as grown men, we like that stuff too. Like, we're childish to a point, but not to the level of a Jar Jar Binks. Doesn't wreck the movie, but doesn't help it at all, and doesn't fit with the brand that we were used to. Before returning to his usual honeyed register, everyone said the same thing about R2-D2 and C-3PO. At the beginning, there was this huge push for me to get rid of C-3PO, and then in the third one, Return of the Jedi, people said the same thing about the Ewoks. Again, sure, but I don't think the commentary around 3PO was anywhere near what it was around Jar Jar. I think this is where George still gets in his feels a bit about Jar Jar and the fact that it was a mistake and he doesn't want to admit it. R2-D2 and C-3PO are not even in the same hemisphere as Jar Jar Binks, stepping in poo, smelling farts, jumping around, it's slapstick, right? It's slapstick, but it's not even really good slapstick. Three Stooges is good slapstick, right? This is like low-end slapstick. No offense, George, but it is, right? So don't, like, yeah, okay, there were some people, but not even in the same hemisphere. Even the Ewoks. The Ewoks, people get mad because the Ewoks put up a fight against the Stormtroopers, but ultimately, until Chewie got that AT-ST, you know what I mean? Like, there was a whole section in there where they were getting destroyed. Remember the music? And, you see dead Ewoks and buddies. So they were going to lose. And then Chewie saved the day by Tarzaning into that AT-ST and taking out the other AT-STs and saving the Ewoks. Yes, they put up a bit of a fight. They were doing pretty good for a while. And yes, people criticize that. And yes, they say that makes no sense because they're these little teddy bear guys. But ultimately, they were on the cusp of being ruined before Chewie saved them. Like, that's so that makes it less of an issue for me. But again, even the Ewoks, you know, due to all that, I'm saying, like, the fact that they did put up a fight and all that, and then they eventually, like, even the Ewoks are, like, they're not slapstick idiots. As much as they were teddy bears, like, they took themselves pretty seriously. Like, you come around us, we're gonna, you know, they tied everybody up, and then we're gonna cook them and eat them. And, you know, the meme about where did Leia get her dress was from another woman that the Ewoks had cooked and eaten. So it wasn't like they were like these bumbling idiots in the jungle. They had booby traps set up. They had all types of stuff to protect themselves. They were a pretty serious, you know, tribe, but they were just little small guys. That's the part that, you know, rubs people the wrong way. But again, comparing that to Jar Jar, like, George, you know, it'd be really fun. Like, and again, I'm not the biggest prequel fan, but I definitely don't hate them. I think the storyline is good. I think it's definitely satisfactory. It's just not great to me. But it would be nice if before George, you know, passes away, if he could just come out and say, yeah, Jar Jar was a stupid move. I shouldn't have done that. Because it didn't fit. That's what I was saying earlier. Like, you have to still, you know, keep the, you know, and again, you can say the Ewoks didn't fit either, but their level of non-fit was way less than Jar Jar's, right? So, you know, there's levels to this. And so when you go to that level after what came before it, you just need to admit he shouldn't have been in the movie, or he should have been a different type of character. And I think, you know, we can all acknowledge that, you know, the scene when they're on Naboo and they're fighting the battle droids and Jar Jar's jumping around with a droid stuck to his foot and it's shooting the other, like, I get the stormtroopers have bad aim and all that stuff, but that's a whole other, like, slapsticky, like, corny, you know. And then when Anakin gets in the ship and he doesn't really know what he's doing, he just happens to get inside the Trade Federation ship and just happens to shoot the exact place that he needed to. There was just too much slapstick and happenstance with Jar Jar and then with that scene. And comparing that to R2D2 and C3PO, regardless of what people said, people can say what they want, but the reality, is the reality. And C3PO is not even close to Jar Jar Binks. Like, it's not even close. When asked whether he was bothered by his later films failing to connect with adults in the way his earlier films did, Lucas returns to fundamentals. Well, it's a kid's movie. It's always been a kid's movie. Yeah, that's true, but that doesn't mean you have to make it Jar Jar. So he's still not ready to acknowledge that he did make a mistake with that. And if you look at all the old pictures of the lineups to watch Star Wars, it's all like young adults for the most part, almost totally. Yeah, there's some kids in there too. And I kind of wonder, going into the prequels, why George didn't consider that. Like, you would think he would have seen the lineups and seen the people going in. Even when you look at the Phantom Menace and you look at those lineups and the people that are waiting all night, and it's similar. It's all young people. I mean, I was 18. It was the same crop of people. It was young adults primarily. There were some kids mixed in, but it was young adults primarily. But that's because we were expecting the same feel as the original trilogy, right? Because that's what it was. And so, again, George Lucas deserves an Oscar. That does not mean that George Lucas is perfect, but George Lucas is 1,000% a visionary and inventor, and he deserves his flowers, despite some mistakes, a few mistakes along the way. Lucas's view. Oh, and also, can I just say this too with the whole kids movie thing? Can we acknowledge this again? This is me. I love George Lucas, but I'm not a sycophant. Everybody has problems, but can I just say, like, George, like, okay, so if this was a movie for little kids, if Star Wars was for little kids, can we just acknowledge that there's a lot of stuff in there that's not for little kids? Can we just... Jabba's Palace and what went on there? You're going to a bar, chopping arms off right off the hop. Guys are getting choked out. I mean, I don't know. Like, if it's for little kids, like... it's not really for little kids, right? Like... oh, you didn't have swearing? Okay. So, I mean, again, I just wish he would acknowledge that the prequels, he made a few mistakes. That's all I'm saying. Lucas's view with popular storytelling is not compromised by being accessible, is one that predates his interest in filmmaking and seems set to outlive it with his museum. Lucas's first creations were short, experimental films, which quickly began winning awards. Then came his first feature, THX, which of course we all know, which the studios hated, and American Graffiti, which they tried to dump on late night TV. With American Graffiti, they said, well, nothing happens. Lucas says, still sounding fairly irritated. And again, going back to the whole childish nature of the prequels, or at least the Phantom Menace in particular, none of those other things he made were for kids. Like, I don't think he was like heavy into the... I think that the Phantom Menace, he was trying to... some of the decisions he was making became more corporatized and were more based on marketing. That's my personal opinion. And he reversed course, because even in Attack of the Clones, there's plenty of stuff in there that is not for little kids. And Jar Jar's basically kicked to the curb. So he did do, in some ways, what the fans wanted in that case. So he's saying things, but at the same time, I think he knows the truth, that you do have to, over the longevity of an IP and projects that are supposed to be congruent, you do need to listen to fans to some extent, right? If he was all in on Jar Jar, and we're all stupid for thinking Jar Jar was stupid, he would have had more, he wouldn't have pulled him. He basically pulled the plug on him. He's barely even in it. And then by the time you get to Revenge of the Sith, Jar Jar? Like, who's that, right? So He knows. He knows. He's just... yeah, he knows. American Graffiti became one of the most profitable films in history. Lucas renegotiated his deal to retain licensing and sequel rights. At the time, all I wanted licensing for was to make t-shirts and posters. I wanted to go to Star Trek conventions and sell these things to fans. I kept the sequel rights because I had more story to tell and I didn't want a studio sitting on it. They had no faith in Star Wars whatsoever. When the board of directors saw it, they said, this is terrible. Let's sell it. That's what Hollywood was like then. Yeah, well, I don't even think you get your foot in the door in the first place. And how stupid were they? Boy, did he stick it to them in the long run. Oh, man. With the success of Star Wars and its sequels, Lucas spent the 1980s developing new technologies and backing the visions of other filmmakers, which needs to be acknowledged. And that's, again, still applies to today. The fact that they still are not acknowledging that is a disgrace. It's a disgrace. Lucas laughs. I liked experimental films. I was into and still am into the fact that moving pictures are moving and that makes them different from paintings. So the mystery of it, the art of it is in the movement, but it needs to have emotion in it. You go to the movies because the stories move you emotionally. The same belief helps explain how Lucas thinks about technology. Many filmmakers see digital tools as a rupture, but Lucas sees it as part of the natural evolution of an art form. I have a lot of friends who are on the Film Foundation with me that's dedicated to saving old movies, and some of them say he pauses to adopt a grovelly tone. I'll never do digital. Lawrence of Arabia was shot with film, and then he smiles. And I say, no, it's cinema. It's the moving image. That's what it is. It's not a technology. It's an idea. Well, and his inroads and creation, essentially, of the digital technology is going to preserve these old films. Like, film reels, they get into their 50s and 60s, they start to get sticky, unless you got guys that are just going to constantly, but even then, even if you're spooling them over and over time to keep them preserved, they slowly degrade, whereas, digital doesn't. It does if it's on a disc, but if it's just a digital thing, like if it's on a USB or it's on, like it is what it is. So if anything, these people should be happy because 400 years from now you're going to be able to watch Lawrence of Arabia. That wasn't going to be the case unless there was digitization. So again, he needs to be acknowledged for stuff. Then he talks about AI. He says artificial intelligence means it's much easier for us to make movies. It's very much like sitting here saying, well, I believe the horse and the buggy is really where it's at. These cars, they break down, they need gas, there's all kinds of problems with them, and pretty soon they'll be making them into tanks, and then they'll be killing people. It's terrible. There's nothing you can do about it. He says, raising his hands, that's progress, it's the future. When pushed, he acknowledges the risks, but insists that AI can provide its own solutions. If you want AI that tells you when something is fake and where it came from, AI can do that. He says humans can't. We're not that smart. The whole idea is you're a human being and responsible for what you say and what you do. And if you're doing something that's illegal, you should be punished for that. Whatever you do, you should be recognized. It's just like real life. I agree, although I do have some trepidations with AI in the sense that who's in control of it? Like we already know much history has been rewritten by the victors, right? So, you put it in the wrong hands and it can still lie. Even now, it makes mistakes all the time. In fact, just to be sure, I checked AI. So I have another video coming out later. And it was dead wrong on something having to do with the Rise of Skywalker. I just checked to see what it had to say about it. I went through the movie to make sure on my own as well, but I just checked initially just to see what it had to say. And it was dead wrong. And then I was like, wait, I don't think that's true. And then I went through the movie and checked, and I was like, dude. And so you still have to check stuff. So AI is not always right. again, I think George needs to get his flowers, and he needs to get his flowers before he passes on. I think it's disgusting and disgraceful that has not happened yet. It's amazing what he's done. It's incredible. The breakthroughs, the technology, the totally changing the entire game, and the fact that he doesn't get acknowledged by his peers for that is a disgrace. And what comes along with that, and I would argue a genius, is sometimes there's mistakes too, and that's okay. It's okay to acknowledge that. It's okay to say, George wasn't perfect. It's okay to be critical, and it's also okay for me to say he should acknowledge those mistakes. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That doesn't take away from anything else that he did. It doesn't take away, So, I have my grandfather, for example. I would consider him a genius. The guy, he could fabricate basically anything. He could build any building. He could restore vehicles. He could. I mean, he was a jeweler, a watchsmith, a goldsmith, a silversmith. He bred thoroughbreds. He raced horses. Guys, he lived to be 97, 98 years. He did it all. Absolute genius, but he had big mistakes too. But that doesn't mean he's not still, in a lot of ways, a genius. It doesn't mean that. It just means he made some mistakes too. Different ones than this. I'm not going to get into that. But yeah, no, you know what? Cool interview. And again, I think you do have to look at what the fans want. And he's wrong if he thinks that that's what Disney was trying to do with the sequels, because that is absolutely not. No fan wanted Luke Skywalker to be a complete loser who thinks about killing his own kin. No one wanted that. That was not for the fans. That was some weird Rian Johnson. I don't know what was going on there. That guy's a weirdo as far as I'm concerned with that. But anyways, guys, let me know in the comment section what you think. If you like this content, please like, subscribe. It always helps the channel. Feel free to check out the rest of my channel. Have yourselves a very good day.